Hello, everyone, and it is Wednesday, and this is our Wonder Years series. I am Pamela Deneuve, and I have been coaching lawyers for over 25 years. I am a boomer, and we are talking about the Wonder Years. I'll tell you a funny story. Just as I was getting ready to broadcast, well, a little bit, about maybe an hour before, my next door neighbor decided to pressure wash his house. This loud, blaring noise. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go on LinkedIn Live and there's going to be this loud blaring of someone pressure washing. So as nicely as I could, I went over and I said, at 12:30, it's just 15 minutes. That's what, if you're here, it's only 15 minutes. 15 minutes, 12:30 to 12:45 Eastern time. Can you not be pressure washing your house? And he was very nice about it and said, I'm almost done. And so here we are. There's no pressure washer blaring in the back. So if you'll notice behind me, there are three words I have there: beliefs, thoughts, and evidence. And the reason I put those words down there is because I'm telling you a story about something that happened to me when I was a young mom, a young single divorcee with two kids who really needed a job, and I was running a business and all that. But before, I want to give you some context because I want you to be able to get tools out of what I'm speaking about instead of just an inspirational story. So the first thing we want to define is beliefs. That's the first one on the list. And a lot of us we just believe what we believe. We don't really think about how we believe it or why we believe it. We just it kind of happened. So most of our beliefs, believe it or not, are based on our past. And if I use the example of if you were like 3 years old and you're in your yard and your mom went in to answer the phone and left you out there for a few minutes and this vicious dog attacked you and you had never seen a dog before, you would have developed a belief. And maybe at the time, it felt like the dog was going to kill you and the person couldn't control their dog. And you would have developed a belief about dogs, that they were bad, they were vicious, and they were mean. Without any kind of outside intervention, you would, every time you see a dog, would have that over and over again in your head, and you would not have a pretty good relationship with dogs. Like I said, there could be some outside intervention, but on normal things like that, something happens, usually when we're young, before 7 years old. It's traumatic, and we carry that belief all the way to we're adults. And then what happens is, say, for example, if you had a job interview and you were meeting a new boss at a restaurant, and say the valet person bought their dog and the dog is standing right there to your new potential boss, you would do everything you could to not show that you were afraid of that dog. But internally, your heart would be racing, you'd be perspiring, your knees would be weak because of a belief that was developed when you were 3 years old. Now, the second word we want to talk about is thoughts. And thoughts are also based on the past. And we develop thoughts, and our thoughts are really basically opinions about something. It's like either good or bad, or right or wrong. We like it or dislike it. We can or we can't. So we have these thoughts about ourselves, about life, and about others. So if we use an example, say someone wanted to introduce you to someone, say we named her Mrs. Jones, and they said this is going to be a good person for you to network with, and you want to get new clients on LinkedIn, this will be a great idea. And so if you went there and you were waiting to meet Mrs. Jones, and your friend has built Mrs. Jones up, and if you got to meet Mrs. Jones, and say at that time Mrs. Jones was drunk, she was slurring her words and maybe telling a dirty joke and bending over in a micro mini, and you're thinking, how is this person going to do anything for me? And say, for example, if they were so drunk, they threw their glasses on the floor, their eyeglasses on top of their head, and then they bent over and they were not covered. Let me just say that. They didn't have on the proper clothing underneath the micro mini dress. You would immediately form an opinion about Mrs. Jones. That would be your thought about Mrs. Jones. If you saw Mrs. Jones a week later at the church with a big hat on, your thoughts about Mrs. Jones wouldn't be any different, because your thoughts on that day was, she's a drunk, she's inappropriate dressed. She doesn't wear underwear, and she's not a classy person. I don't want to have anything to do with her. So even though she was in church, your original thoughts always precede that. And the third word I have here is evidence. And evidence is we have beliefs and we have thoughts. And once we have those beliefs and thoughts, our brain's job is to continue to gain evidence for what it is that we believe. So, therefore, if you're a lawyer, if you're a baby boomer, if you're a millennial, you're walking around thinking that you're having spontaneous thoughts. But basically, all of your thoughts are based on your beliefs and thoughts from the past to gain evidence. If you like chocolate ice cream, somebody puts it in front of you, you're going to gain evidence that you like it. If you don't like spinach, someone puts that in front of you, you will gain evidence. If you don't like a person, if you don't think you're smart, if you don't think you can make a lot of money, if you don't think that you're liked, your brain will continue to gain evidence. So that leads me to my story. We're halfway through here. So my story was I had my husband and I divorced when my kids were like 2 and 5, and we moved to California because he never supported us. So I was very ambitious, and I had a business at the time, and I um, was making payroll and barely paying my bills, and I needed more money. And someone told me, Pamela, Hughes Aircraft they're hiring night, and it needed to be a night position because had my business during the day. So at night they're hiring at night for wang operators. Now, I'm telling my age because if you're a millennial or even a Gen X, you may not know what a wang is. It was the first version of a word processor. So I didn't know anything about a wang or anything about computers, but they said, oh, over here, they'll give you a 3-day course and you can get a certificate and you will be a bona fide wang operator. So I went over there, my kids were school age, I needed the money. And so I kind of had the belief that is if I tried, that I could win. I could win it. And my thoughts were, if I take the action, if I take the class, I can get a job. My thoughts won. I took the class. I went and applied for the job, and the job was for a technical writer in the technical department of publishing for Hughes Aircraft. And me, with my 3-day certificate, got this job and actually negotiated probably one of the highest paid in the department. Wasn't a wise part on my part, but anyway, I thought I could make that money, and I did. I got the highest paying job. And then once I had the job, and I was running my business during the day, and then from 4 to 11 at night, I was doing this, trying to be a technical writer on this wing, and it didn't go very well. I'm not detailed anyway, and I know now, I didn't know then, I have a bit of ADHD, so I really wasn't great at these, things that are required to be a publishing tech word processor. So after 90 days, my boss, her name was Pam, she came in and she said, Pamela, everyone loves you. You're you're cheery, you show up on time, you do all these things, but you know what? You can't do the work. And I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to let you go. You did not make your 90-day probation. But to help you, we're going to give you 2 weeks off with pay so that you could go find another job. Okay? We know your situation and we want to help you out. So I was just devastated. I'd never been fired before. And so I called my coach. I always had a coach. I still have several coaches. I don't tell people to get a coach. I have a coach myself. I have several coaches. In fact, I won't tell you how many coaches I have, but I have a lot of coaches that help me to expand beyond my normal thoughts and beliefs. So I call my coach crying. Oh my God, I was fired. I can't believe I was fired. I've never been fired before and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I got the kids and all that. And she's like, she wasn't having any of it. She said, no downtime, get another job. And I'm like, so that was that night. So it was like, 10, whatever o'clock at night that I had been fired. And so the next day, I had to get a job, right? So the next day I got up early, put on, a business suit. I hope I look okay here. Put on a business suit and went back to the place I was just fired. I know the last thing that she expected was to see me. And I went there and I said, uh, I took this job because I wanted to work nights. But now my situation has changed. And because of that, I am going to go to human resources and get another position here that's during the day. And I don't want to have 2 weeks off on my record. So I'm going to keep coming to work because I don't want to have 2 weeks off because I'm not leaving Hughes Aircraft. I have other opportunities. I had no other opportunities. In my head, I believed that I could. I had thoughts that I could. And so I walked down. It was maybe about a half a mile walk. It was a big campus. And I walked on my way to human resources, like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? By the time I got to human resources, my boss that had fired me left a message, says, call me. Because we didn't have cell phones and things back then, or, we didn't have any of that. So I called her on the landline, and she answered on the landline. And she says, guess what? Our purchasing department needs a weighing operator, and you would be totally well equipped. You'd be more than qualified for this position. And I, in fact, have recommended you go over there immediately, and they will hire you. And that's what I did. I went over there and they hired me immediately. I had a great recommendation. Now, my 3-week certificate, I had 90 days trying to be a technical weighing operator. I was like a whiz compared to what I was initially. So therefore, I was hired. They so appreciated everything I did, and they loved my work, and they thought I was the best thing. They had terrible people working for them, and my attitude and my hard work ethic won them over. And so that's how I recreated an opportunity that was fired into a very good working situation. Now, what does this have to do with the Wonder Years? We have 2 minutes left here. The Wonder Years, if I were going to read the definition of the Wonder Years is a strategic transition period specifically designed for Gen X and Boomer lawyers to reimagine and reshape the final chapters of their legal careers. And there's certain things that we focus on: reduce stress, more freedom, increase profitability, unchain oneself from the billable hours, and building a legacy. So how do we do that? We have to start with the beliefs, and we have to have with the thoughts. If you have thoughts like it's all almost over, I'll never win, I'm where I am now, let me get through it, I have to keep working, I need health insurance, I need the money, I got kids in school, let me just drag through this. Let me tell you, you're going to get more of that, and it's going to be torture. So you'll have stress, and all of those things that you don't want. So this is where changing your beliefs and your thoughts will create new evidence. I'm a perfect example. My last part of my life here on this planet and in my career, and I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon, is my best. So I am giving free assessments to Gen X and Boomer lawyers who want to strategically look at redesigning this next chapter in their career. So I'm going to put the link in the back. in the comments. And if you want to find out how I'm at 15 minutes and 3 seconds, we're almost over. If you want to find out how you can redesign your wonder years by changing your beliefs and thoughts, creating new evidence, then set a time to talk with me and we'll have a half an hour. I have a form that's the Wonder Years assessment. Get an assessment of where you are, where you want to go, what you deserve, and what you want. You just like I created a job out of nothing. I could have like been fired and just gone home and been a victim and figured out how I was going to take care of myself and my 2 kids. But we can create based on what we believe. That's why we have Facebook. That's why we have Amazon.com. That's why we have iPhones and iTunes, because these people created thoughts and beliefs with no evidence. And I invite you to join us and do the same thing. Thank you so much for joining us in the Wonder Years. And next week, we have a very special guest. I know you'll love her, and we will give you more invitations. And I'm so excited, and I'm really, really enjoying presenting this Wonder Years series to you. Take care and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.